When I think about why voting matters, I kind of spend a lot of time going back and forth, thinking through, kind of what these good arguments might be, and kind of boil down to two things for me, the head and the heart. And when I think about kind of maybe the head argument for it, I think about how much elected officials influence your daily lives. So when you think about things like roads, schools, police training, tax legislation, budgeting, climate change policy, homelessness work, anything really that you can think about, you are affected by that every single day. So it's really difficult, frankly, not to be impacted in some way daily by the decisions of elected officials. And the great thing about voting is it's one of the few and rare opportunities where we collectively can come together and choose and make sure our voice is heard, who we want to represent us and our loved ones. And the second piece that I mentioned is thinking about the hard approach. And when I thought about the hard approach, I thought of this idea about how voting always is this deeply personal venture. And, I think that that's really true, but it's important to maybe reframe that a little bit and think of voting a little bit differently. So voting still is deeply personal to me, but I feel the strongest urgency around voting when I think about others, when I think about, my loved ones, when I think about my community, when I think about the community at large. That's why I vote. That's why voting matters to me, because I think about what today looks like and what the future might look like. So, I still care obviously about myself, but this is something that's really a lot bigger than me. And I care about using my voice to make sure that the future for my loved ones and for my community is a better place. So, just one last piece. When I think about voter apathy, I think the best way to combat that is empathy, right? If we can just be more caring and think about, our loved ones and think about our community, that's a really strong argument for why you should be voting.
I largely agree with everything that Connor just said. I'd like to especially harp on the fact that, so for instance, myself, I began becoming politically active after I served in the military. And up until that point in my life, my opinion on politics was if I don't bother it, it won't bother me. And as I've gotten older and more engaged, I realize how untrue that is, right? There is a certain section of our population that is privileged enough that politics doesn't affect your life. Either the effects are benign or beneficial. But for most people, politics are very integral to our day-to-day life. Just like Connor said before, if you drive on roads or pay taxes or follow laws, politics are happening to you whether you get engaged or not. And voting is the number one way that we display our voice. What I often tell a lot of people who are in my circle who say, why should I vote? I'm one person out of 350 million. My vote doesn't matter anyway. I always tell them, when you don't vote, what you're saying is that your opinion doesn't matter. These politicians are going to make laws that affect you, whether you vote or not, and you need to let them know what you want your country to be like. To the extreme is even when you don't vote, it's almost like you're agreeing with the person you disagree with most in politics. So I always say, get your voice heard, let them know what changes you want to be made, and that's why I think voting's important.